Turned out that the invaders had begun to build up troops around them and perhaps a war was about to break out. To be on the safe side, Mark boarded up the windows of his house and filled the gaps with glue. Then the family put on gas masks. It was the only way they could feel safe. But it wasn't long before the air raid sirens started blaring and the war began. The family hugged each other nervously. But that day, the government announced it would evacuate millions of children from the city, even though Anne was reluctant to leave. But for safety reasons, they finally put the children on the train. And Annie, as a mother, was forced to part with her 5-year-old. How much pain must have been in her heart. Back home, Mark built a shelter in the backyard. The next day, Mark was assigned to the fire service. He was in the middle of a smoky, dangerous city, and Annie joined the backup team. Every day was scary for them. The only consolation was a letter from their son. But the turmoil has left the family in shambles. Even the fence in front of the house is being taken down and turned into shells. To make Annie feel better, Mark said he'd build a wooden fence tomorrow. But the war was brutal. One dark night, their house was not spared. So they thought they'd take the time to fix up the house and see the boy they hadn't seen in a long time. The boy had already adjusted to life in the country. When they met, the family smiled for the first time. They also dreamed of having a cottage here. But the house in the city still had a mortgage of over 20 years. When he came back to the city, Mark immediately built a metal cage. When he got inside, it was just the right size. It turned out to be a new bed for them to sleep in at night. But then the air raid sirens went off. Mark blew out the candles, and despite his own fears, he held his wife tightly in his arms. Luckily, the cage was strong enough to keep them safe. It's almost Christmas Day. People were finally reunited with their children. There was singing and dancing and smiles on everyone's faces. But one of Mark's colleagues couldn't be happier. The night before, a bomb had silently taken his son. Mark apologized. I don't know how long it took, but as the sun rose, the war was over. The family resumed their quiet life. But that day, a police car pulled up in front of the house. The boy had been caught stealing. Luckily, the police only gave him a verbal warning. Annie couldn't believe her son was stealing. She gave him a hard time, though their lives were seldom easy along the way. But in the 10 years since the war, the bond between them has not diminished. In his spare time, Mark would always take Annie to enjoy their time together. But late at night, they worried about the future of their children. The boy had gone to university. He had long hair and there was even a girl waiting for him at the door. The two of them watched, but in their hearts, they thought they'd meet the girl's parents if they had the chance. But then a letter came along that threw all their plans out of whack. The boy was about to be drafted into the Royal Regiment. They were sad to see him go, but they were proud. So for the rest of their lives, they went to the newly installed telephone and waited for their son to call. They waited for 3 years. The years had turned them gray at the temples, and Mark always had a surprise for Annie. He'd secretly bought a car, so they went for a drive in the countryside. And to top it all off, they got a letter from their son. It said he was coming home from the army, but they couldn't have guessed that there was a girl with him. Though she was slim, Annie didn't seem to like it. But Annie's desire to have a grandchild overcame that dissatisfaction. So one day Annie asked her son what they were going to do about having children. But the son said they couldn't have children because her wife was schizophrenic. But bad luck didn't stop there. One day they were watching TV. But then, out of the blue,